Hello viewers, today we're going to be cleaning up a Galaxy box VN. This is an early to mid 2000s model. I believe it's from 2003. This is 2002 to 2003. This is 2004. This is 2003. So we have some conflicting information there. Model 4733. And the LASCO equivalent would have been 3733. This is one of the early PSC motor models. So it would have been a recalled one. But I think they're perfectly fine. The danger exists when people let this get all clogged up with dust. And then it runs hot because it's not cooling itself. As long as you keep these clean, I don't think that they're really of any danger. For a long time, LASCO sold, I guess they didn't sell them, they were giving them out at no charge, little fuse plug adapters that you would put on the end of the cord, and that supposedly would make it safe. I'm not really sure how much that did, but that's what they claimed, and that was their resolution to the recall. Anyways, let's give this thing a quick test so we can see how it's running now, and then we'll go ahead and service it, and then we'll check it afterwards. It's high. It's not tipping over, but it's definitely close. And it's moving a pretty good amount of air. These early PSC motor models were quite powerful. Very strong airflow. Someone else just fell. Very noisy though. And unlike the Marco motor models, these didn't have a nice slow low. These were pretty fast on low. Not too loud on low right now, but I suspect once we clean it up it'll get noisier. One of the things about these motors that I have noticed is the bearings are quite good. It's very seldom I come across one of these that's locked up. I think somebody had asked to see the power draw before and after cleaning. So since that just came back to mind, I will go ahead and do that. So we're looking at 119.8 the volts, and we'll go over to the watts. High is 133. Medium is 106, and on low is 73. So these still drew quite a bit of power. Alright, so that's the power draw. We'll check that afterwards. I don't think it'll change a whole lot. If anything, I think it may go up, because having all that dust on the blades reduces the amount of grab they have to the air. Alright, so let's get inside of here. We have 6 rather, screws to undo on each side. Guess I'll use a different bit. Okay, that's not something I've ever had happen before. What? There's the first for everything. screws are all misaligned down here. These are very cheap fans, built very cheap, and you can see the holes don't even line up on the screws. Not on the screws, on the frame versus where the holes in the guard are. Okay, so the guard's pretty dusty, but it's like the fine powdery dust, so I think it should clean up pretty easily. It's when you get that sticky dust, like if this was used in a kitchen or something, that's when it's really difficult to get it clean. Now the blade is an interesting shape. The newer ones, they're kind of circular, if you will, like this edge is. This is flat and flat. I never noticed that before, but this is the first time I've really looked at one of these up close. The blade just pulls off. That's usually easier said than done, but that's how it works. Okay, that wasn't too bad. Just a press fit shaft. This is going to be a pretty low hours unit. There's not a lot of dust in there. And that's usually a good way to tell, because people will clean the blades but they won't clean inside there. And here we have the motor. Oh no, it's so dangerous. And it is encased in plastic, which I don't like. It shouldn't be in plastic, but whatever. Okay, let's get the rear guard off. What? Ugh. What in the world? We got a spill here. Some kind of a glue spill. It's not supposed to be like that. Yeah, they put way too much glue on this thing. When they put the glue for the cord on, the glue went everywhere. Ugh. Not good. I'm going to pull the cord out because I want to just remove the whole motor from the housing, so I can just throw the housing in the bathtub and clean it off. The switch just pulls up and off, or the knob rather, and then this rotates, kind of pinch it in a little bit, and then rotate it, and that comes out pretty easily. And then the motor should be released with the 4 screws on the frame. Oh, the screws are all sticky. There is just glue everywhere in here. Definitely were sloppy when this was assembled. And here's the motor. Yeah, I don't think these are all that bad. Yeah, I think they're fine. They got plenty of parts. I mean, in their defense, the windings actually look pretty good. Yeah, it's not a super thin copper in there. That's not too bad. It's actually of a very moderate very moderate or modest thickness for just a basic fan. That's totally reasonable. Oh, to me it's not bad. To me that is not bad at all. Alright. Well, let's leave all this stuff here. Put that motor down so we don't get sticky stuff all over the table. And we'll go take the frame and the guards and everything else upstairs. So we could take the handle off too. And it'll be easier to clean the handle. There's tabs in here, you just push it outwards and up. This cam breaks, you gotta be careful with this procedure. Wash that off. I got more glue all over myself. This is gonna be a nuisance having all that glue everywhere. Alright, so now we'll take all these different pieces and we'll go upstairs and clean these off in the bathtub. As if we didn't know what it was. Everything has been cleaned. Cleaned up pretty easily. Sans two things. There was an issue on the rear guard. There is some staining around here. You probably can't see it on the video, but I did get most of it off, but there is still a little bit of staining right around here. I guess something, you know what, that probably could be like glue residue or something, I don't know. The glue is really causing a freak show. It's getting everywhere and it's very difficult to get off. My hand is still a little bit sticky from it, and it's on the bottom of the cage here as well. So now I got to worry about it getting on the table. Anyways, so what we're going to do now is, yeah, see, look at this. Oh, not good. I just got a splinter. Metal shaving splinter. Okay. I'm gonna have to try to gooze go, whatever the heck it's called, this, because you can't be putting it on surfaces like that. This I'm not worried about because the cord has to stick there anyways, but we'll deal with that in a minute. So now see the glue got onto the screwdriver. This is really bad. I've serviced a lot of these fans. I've never really encountered one being quite this messy with the glue. You know, there's sticky. It could also be like dried up oil? I don't know. Some awful sticky residue all over this plastic thing too. Well, anyways, we got to get the motor out of there. I'll try and wash that plastic piece in the sink maybe to clean it up a little bit. Try and get some of the stickiness off of there. It's stinking toxic sticky material, whatever that is. Okay, so we got 4 screws on here that'll release the motor. Goof. And there's one other screw on the back that holds the capacitor in place. They are, well, it looks like they're all the same size. Are they? No, they're not. The capacitor one is slightly smaller. Okay, so now take this off. I'm going to have to slide through the entire length of the cord, which is now sticking to the tripod because it is a sticky freak show. And I'll try and just wash that off with water. I'll go do that now. It's not worth the time to get that off. It's just staying. Okay, now let's take a look at the motor itself. We have a sticky wire, so I'm going to try to work with this towards the edge of the table. Or in fact, what I could do instead is I could put this down. And then if this gets sticky from the wire, it's not a big deal. Okay. I don't know why that wire is like that. That's ridiculous. Alright, so we got 4 screws to open this up. We have to open it up to oil it because there's no oil ports. Okay, make sure the shaft is clean. It feels like it's pretty clean. And it looks like it's pretty clean. So, I'll just go ahead and take this off. And there is a little bit of dirt on there, so I may have to put the motor back together and run it for a little while with a piece of sandpaper up against the shaft if I can't get this to come off easily. I'm surprised that's getting it stuck on there. It's not that... I don't feel like it's much there. There we go. Never want to just force it off because you'll scratch up the bearing inside. Alright, so the material in there is still surprisingly wet after a decade, so it looks pretty good as far as that's concerned. Very carefully lift up the stator and separate it from the other portion of the housing here. Make sure that we don't contact the wires on the edges of this because it's very sharp. And what we're going to do here is we're going to make sure that we get... Oh jeez, I almost fell. We're going to make sure that we get all this dust out of here. There's enough dust accumulation seems to be, at least what I think, causes these to have an issue. Heat buildup will cause any motor to fail prematurely, so this should be done no matter what fan you're working with. All the dust out. You know, interestingly enough, there's not really any evidence in here of this running that hot. All these tie wraps are still perfectly good. They're not yellowed, they're not browned out. When you have a motor that's been running hot, the plastic will turn brown from the heat, and that's a pretty good indicator that the motor has been running too hot. But these are all fine, and this is, you know, it's got a good number of hours on it, so if it was running hot and it was having an issue, it would have had it by now. So that just goes to show I think these motors are perfectly fine as long as you keep it clean. And the windings feel like they were varnished well. They're not loose or moving around at all. You know, they're all tied together. I really think these are perfectly good motors. You know, it looks like it's a very nice quality motor. I really don't see anything wrong with them. A little bit of dust in here, we'll try to get that out. And routinely, this can just be blasted out with some compressed air, and that will keep it as clean as it needs to be. Okay, so we're ready to lubricate it now. We're going to use, there's two kinds of oils that you could use. You could use the 3-in-1 in the blue can, which of course is for fans. It says it right on the box. You should not use the black can, which is this one, because it's not for fans. You can see it doesn't have fans anywhere. It's for nuts and bolts, wire cutters, rolling shoes, saws, and two-wheel contraptions. That's it. It's not for fans. The other things that you can use this one for is powerful saws, lawnmowers, and shop tools. You can also use zoom spouts. I have to get some more of this. I use this more often just because the package is a little bit easier to use. I think it's about the same as far as the quality goes. So what you want to do here is you want to put the oil, put a couple drops in here, and some people will freak out about doing this. I don't know why. You can put several drops down into the bearing itself. But what you really need to do is put the oil around the outside of the bearing and get it all into the oil wicks that exist in between the bearing and then the surface where the bearing sits. Okay, so we'll do that there. Go over here and do it here. And this one you don't want to put any oil in there because it'll just go through the table, which will be a freak show. Okay, so we'll just go through there like that. Get a nice coating of oil on there. If this had oil ports, you'd be able to do that from the outside. That's what the oil ports conventionally were for. There was just a hole into where that wick is. But of course, you know, we don't have those anymore. Alright, so the motor's lubricated. Just as a good practice, I like to clean the shaft off a little bit. It is perfectly clean though. I'm not really concerned about it. Yeah, there's no contamination in there whatsoever. I'll just put a drop on here. Come on, out drop. There we go. I'll put a drop on here. It was a little bit too much. Just before I slip it in. Actually, even before that, the stator has to go back in place. And again, it's very, very important that you don't scratch the windings. You will ruin the windings. Take a couple extra seconds to do it slowly. It will save you hours of headache. Okay, so now we can slip this down in there. And there's going to be an air pocket. Okay, so that's in there. And then before I slip this back together, I'll put a quick drop of oil on here just so that it slides down the shaft a little bit easier. I'll put a drop of oil on the shaft itself as well. Okay. And this I don't think is directional specific on the top. Looks all the same to me. So I remember the sticker being over here, so I'm putting it back the same way, but I don't think it really matters. Okay. So now we'll put the screws in. And these don't have to be obscenely tight. They just need to be firm and evenly torqued. This screwdriver isn't very powerful, so I'm just going to do it all the way as far as the screwdriver will take it. Okay. This is reassembled. Now you may notice that it's very stiff. It usually is when you first put it back together. That's because the bearings are out of alignment. So to align it, we're just going to take a screwdriver and strike the shaft a couple times. Not aggressively, just a little bit. And that'll get it into pretty much perfect alignment with little to no difficulty. It doesn't seem like it's going to spin for very long, but once the blade is on, it'll spin for much longer. Okay, so the motor's aligned and ready to go back into service. So I'm going to leave this towel here because the stupid sticky freak show of the cord. Put this back on. Am I doing this wrong here? What's the issue? Oh, does it go like this? Yes, it does. It goes like that. Okay. A little bit of dust on the back of the motor here still. Let's get that off. Just make sure you keep these vents clean and clear. And this thing should run for decades. No problem. Oh, that's what the issue is. The cord has to be fed through here first. That's why it's confusing. Get off of me, stupid sticky cord. Okay, now it's fitting on there just fine. So let's get the capacitor screwed down. And before I put the oil away, I'm just going to drip one drop down the shaft here into the bearing. And then oil was seeping through the wicks over time, but just to give it a little head start there. And then I'm also going to leave a drop of oil on the shaft itself, because when you put the blade on there, the blade will go on easier and it won't get rusted and it won't stick on there as much when it comes time to service it next, if there was a little bit of oil on the shaft. Okay, now put the rest of the screws back in. I think they go in from the other side. Yep, they do. I remember this being kind of difficult here. These don't need to be super tight, just snug. Okay, now let's get the motor back into the frame, both the video frame and the box VM frame. And we're going to have to fight with the sticky stuff a little bit here. So ultimately this, how does this go? I think it screws on from the other side. Yeah, it's going to end up going like this. And it sits on there like that. Okay. Y'all peeping that? Not really. We're going to be using those 3 or 4 rather pretty aggressive threaded screws, and some of them are sticky, so I know which one's one on the left side. I don't know why it's like that. I've never seen that before in one of these. Oh gosh, that was the worst. I'm not going to tighten these down until I get all 4 of them in, because you could have an alignment issue if you need to move it around to reach the different holes. Okay, now we have to get the switch back in place, and it comes off the same way that it went on. And ultimately it's got to end up, it wants to sit like that, so it's going to go in like this, and then you just turn it. Oh, actually, well, we want it to end up like that, I think. Yes, you put this in and then you turn it, but it's turning the other way, so we have to put it in like this so that it can turn that way. So, because you want it to end up so that the wire is naturally the way it was sitting before, which is like that. There is just stickiness all over the frame. I tried to get it off, but I couldn't get it off. It was taking too long. It just wasn't worth it. Alright, so now we get to get the cord back in place, which is going to be a sticky freak show. Not normally like this. I don't know why this one is so stinking sticky. I really hate sticky. You don't have to be too particular with this, because when you put the back grill on, it's going to hold the wires in place anyways. So you don't have to really go crazy with making sure this is aligned. You know, that's probably good enough like that. That sticky material is very difficult to get off of your hands. I don't know what that is. I know it's the glue, but I don't know why it's all over the place. Alright, so we got to put the knob on and check it to make sure that the numbers align up with the position. There's a groove in here, and those grooves meet that. Alright, looks like it's aligned up correctly. Now I'll put the handle back on. And you kind of have to, you can't bend it much, but you bend it like that a little bit so that these clips will go in into their holes. Alright, now we're good to, let's give it a quick test. Just to make sure that it's running properly. Don't see why it wouldn't be, but you never know. It's running fine. Alright, so we'll start by putting the rear guard on. And that sticky freak show down there will continue. You got to be very careful to not put these screws too tight. They're just going into sheet metal and they strip out super easy. You can't hardly put any pressure on these screws. And I'm cutting the driver up before you even hear it bog down because they strip so easy. This is not really quite sitting as nicely as it should. I always have a little bit of difficulty getting this to set quite right. That's good enough. It's not perfect, but it's not going to be. The main concern is that the wire can't pass, into the front and get caught on the blades. If it bulges out the back, it'll make no difference to me. Okay. We're going to take a quick break and try to clean this off. I'm going to try and use Goo Go or Goo Gone. This stuff works really well. I remember when I bought this I was agitated because it was kind of expensive, and I opened a container. I said, what the heck? I'm going to use it, 3 times and it's going to be empty. This has lasted me years. This container. Don't need much at all. It's very, very effective. And it's working just as well here as it works everywhere else. Probably could have gotten all this stuff off with the Goo Go, but it ain't worth spending the time on it, It's behind a guard. I'm never going to come in contact with it. I like to follow up with a little bit of water so that the material is not sitting on the finish. It's supposed to be surface safe, and I've yet to have it ever cause any damage to a surface, but why risk it? Oh, it's actually over here too. Jeez. What a joke. It's everywhere. Yeah, so you can hear there's a little bit of residual stuff on there. That's why I like to go back through and get it off. Alright, that's good. Oh, not good. Here's more of it. It got everywhere as I was doing the cleaning, I guess. And it was getting all over me. I didn't realize it was getting all over the whole flipping surface of the fan too. Unbelievable. Anywhere else? No, I don't see it anywhere else. Okay. Alright, we should be good now. Okay, so now we're ready to put the blade on. The blade has a notch in the center of it. Flat side. And the shaft has a flat side. I've already put a little bit of oil on the shaft, so now I'll match up the two flat sides. And well, this is giving me more trouble than it usually does. And then you just press it on until it stops. And the blade is installed. Okay, so let's on it real quick just to make sure everything is working. And then I'll put the front guard back on. It's working. And the same notation about the screw tightness on the front, not very tight at all. Okay, put the feet on. This one I believe is the original, and this is one that I just had. Okay, everything looks pretty good on the back, aside from that sticky mess on the bottom, but can't really see it that much. Not worth the time to be concerned about anyways. And it looks great from the front. Looks like new. Alright, so let's plug it up to the kilowatts meter and let's see what the power draw is. I don't know if it's going to have changed or not. Of course I don't remember what it was. Now the low was like 73 or something. 119.5 volts over to the watts, and here we go. Start it up on high. It's 134 on high, which I think is less. I think that's significantly less. Is that ever moving in the air? Holy mackerel. That is powerful. Look at that. That is strong. Medium is 105 watts. It's in pretty good balance too. Quite good for a plastic blade there. Definitely moving a lot more air now that it's clean. load, which is 70.8 watts. I'll have to go back and watch the previous clip to recall what the power draw was. I'll try to remember to put that information into the description box that nobody looks at. It's probably a waste of time to do that, but maybe that one person that was intrigued will look at it. Now, this is powerful. Very strong fan. Very good air velocity for sure. Chunk is left on here. Alright, back behind. That's insane. Okay, so that was a very successful clean and service. And this was a great find too. It's in really good condition and it runs great.